So I don't normally do this in videos, but with this one specifically, viewer discretion is heavily advised. There's a lot of explicit content in this video that I don't even know if YouTube is going to allow us to keep up, but we'll see how it works out, and we'll try to show you as much as we can because I think it is exceptionally important. Today we're going to talk about an influencer slash bodybuilder, I guess. Essentially, he's a man-child named Henri Thynne, and I could be pronouncing his name incorrectly, but it really doesn't matter. He's a douchebag, and he basically is the stereotypical influencer on social media, posting his physique every which way, showing you his awesome transformations, except oddly using photos of him in his adolescence, and then blasting steroids to inflate how impressive the transformation actually was. And he gained a fair bit of notoriety, spamming these types of videos, flexing in the gym, all that great shit. It's similar to basically all of the influencers that we see on this channel and many, many more. But there's actually something disgusting about Henri that you all need to know. And this video is going to detail every possible thing that I can show you without crossing YouTube's guidelines, as well as my own guidelines, honestly, because there's so much information. I don't want to give any misinformation, so we're going to cover as much as I can accurately. See, he has a horrific history of abusing, sexually assaulting, and harming women. In fact, Charlotte, who's been on our channel several times, is one of those girls.
Charlotte Chant has gone through hell at the hands of someone she once loved.
I was sexually assaulted by him, and I was strangled by him multiple times. I was stalked by him.
Now, when she came onto our channel, I had zero clue any of this was happening. In fact, when she did the video with us on the topic of OnlyFans models in fitness, I had no clue what was going on, but during that time, all of what you were about to see was going down. And that video, very unfortunately, which hurts me massively to say this, but played a large role in some of the consequences. Now, before we dive into this, it's really important that we try to start from the earliest beginning that we can. First of all, Henri is a part of a long history of social media influencing. Tammy Hembrew is his sister, and she has a massive following. She's just about as large as you can get, with also a disgusting history, including using her kids as props for social media content, divorcing her ex-husband abruptly after making an extravagant deal over it, while the guy really hadn't done anything wrong, and much, much, much more. But she's not the point of this video at all. However, there is a role to be played. Now, at this point, I think Henri got his social media influencer abilities, and certainly his nepotism on social media, I don't know, from her. I mean, she's extremely successful. If she takes him once, he's going to get several thousand followers. It's just kind of the name of the game. And because of that and his ability to post content frequently, he started doing decently on social media. He didn't do decently as a human being. It's really riding off of the coattails of his sister Tammy, likely financially and through his influence. He is probably nothing more than just a brokey that is literally riding off of her coattails. And it doesn't take long for him to become a public figure and then to destroy that public figure simultaneously. He has been in and out of the Australian jail system since 2022, as far as I can see back at least, from breaching restraining orders along with road rage incidents to so much more. And I'm sure that this video does not encapsulate everything because there's likely a long history of things that this individual has been a part of just based on the behaviors that he's presented the past 4 years. So backing up way before Charlotte was ever involved in any of this, he had a girlfriend that broke up with him as well in 2022. She filed a restraining order against him for very similar reasons to what Charlotte was going through. Manipulation, abuse, stalking, things of this nature. And I know I really haven't covered what she's gone through, but we're going to get deep into that as we go through this timeline. So essentially, this girl was absolutely abused. Not to the significance of some of the other situations we'll talk about, but he would throw heavy things at her, break her things, and stalk her heavily, abusing her phone, trying to message her constantly, and unfortunately even showing up to her boyfriend's work, in which he lived far away. So he made a happy trip far to the distance of her new boyfriend after this whole thing had been done with for a while, and he had already had restraining orders against him multiple times that he had broke. He decides to do this.
shoes.
Now, you would think after multiple confrontations, breaking restraining orders, and AVOs in Australia, the man would be in prison. You know, he's done violent behaviors, he's had violent behaviors, but he wasn't. And because of him not being incarcerated, there's so many issues that have spawned from this. And his sister Tammy has very fortunately paid for his bail every single time. In fact, 5 times to get him out of the jail system. Now, putting yourself in the shoes of his sister, you'd ask yourself, is this the right thing to do? Helping a bro out who has, you know, a long history of abusing women, not just once, but multiple reoccurring times, having road rage incidents, beating people up? Or should I let him sit there and contemplate what he's done because he clearly isn't getting better? I don't know about you, but I would personally choose, let's keep this motherfucker in that jail cell and let him get some help, figure his shit out. Isolation is the key to many solutions. This is really the last bit I'll say about her, but when you have a brand built around helping women, empowering women to work out, change their body, blah, 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 this is really not the kind of thing you should be doing. And she says that she's trying to distance herself from Henri and all of this, but quite frankly, she's still heavily involved. It's as clear as day. But she's beyond it. What is more important now is after going through the beating of another man, after going through abusing and stalking another woman, he gets out, gets bail paid for, has to do some public service. Then he meets Charlotte. Now, at this point, the ex-girlfriend didn't really have a public presence, didn't really announce this information to the public. And a lot of it wasn't necessarily as open as you would hope. In America, we have a very open justice system. You can basically just Google somebody's name and see a lot of their criminal record. You can hire a lawyer to dig up some of that criminal record completely legally, by the way. But Australia works a little bit different. So it's not as easy as just Googling somebody's name and finding out what they have done. It's much harder. And so she didn't necessarily know all of the things that he had been doing before they had met. Let me just fast forward a little bit before we get too deep into when him and Charlotte had met. I want to very critically point out what he has pleaded guilty to currently and the fact that he had a plea deal and is out of the jail system when he should have been in there for 3 years and then had 2 years of parole. Currently, he has pleaded guilty to sexual assault, 2 accounts of strangulation, 1 account of assault, 1 account of stalking, and 11 other domestic assault or violence charges that he has pleaded guilty to. And this is just pertaining to Charlotte, not anybody else. And now the reason I bring this up right now is because I know a lot of you are probably going to click off somewhere about now. It's so important that you understand this individual is out on a plea deal, going to be posting content about fitness influencing. Call him out on his bullshit for me, okay? All right, getting back to the story. After he left his ex, who was extremely concerned, filed for a restraining order, then he broke that order, decided to assault her boyfriend after everything had happened, which is funny because meanwhile, the boyfriend had no idea who he was. So it's like this random guy walks into the store. Like, that's how insignificant he is while he thinks he has this like superior prowess. And you can tell he doesn't know how to fight from these videos. Like, this dude would be wiped out instantaneously if he, it'd be crazy, dude. Like, let's bring him to here. Like, let's have some fucking Muay Thai. I'll throw some low kicks at this dude for fun. Why not? So after that had happened, shortly after, Charlotte and Henri had met, and the gal had been on this channel several times since then, just to be completely frank. Now, honestly, she's a really great person and honest almost to a fault. Now, you might be thinking, because I know comment sections get deranged,
it's her fault for even letting him close. She should have done her due diligence. She should have paid attention. She should have looked at the red flags.
but let's be honest, because it's mostly males that are probably say that. When have you ever paid attention to a female's red flags when you're just trying to chase some poo-tang around, brother? Like, probably not often, so I wouldn't get too worried. Not to say Charlotte was chasing the male version of poo-tang around, but you know that you ignore a lot of red flags. Sometimes when you're wearing rose-colored glasses, red flags all just look like flags. And this happens in a lot of relationships. It is to no one's fault except the abuser, because they are the abuser, all right? They're the abuser. It is not anyone's fault for having been abused. That's an insane take. And like I said, Australia does have a pretty fucked legal system. I'm not even gonna front. It is kind of messed up after digging into this stuff, trying to look through records. It is pretty jacked up. So it would have been really hard for Charlotte to have found any information regarding his previous issues if she had just simply even if she went through a really thorough search, it would be very hard to find this information. And it's not too long after this had all happened that things start to get really extreme. And I can't can't stress this enough. He really goes insane. Viewer discretion, I'm telling you, is advised here. As we continue going, it's going to get more and more gruesome. So almost immediately, he had a road rage incident where essentially he was upset at Charlotte, and so he was hitting her and elbowing her in the car as she was driving. Because of this, she couldn't drive effectively, and the car had stopped in front of her. They had hit the car. So what did our homeboy man-child do? Well, he gets out and starts beating up the guy who they crashed into because he was beating up his girlfriend because now she can't drive. So obviously it's the other guy's fault too now. Dude's a psychopath. So he gets charged for all of this. It's a whole thing. It's a red flag for sure, right? Red flag. The dude probably has some bad tendencies. And it's definitely the tip of the iceberg. And this is where Charlotte starts to distance herself, file restraining orders, things like this. And that literally didn't stop him, just like it didn't before, except this time now it has escalated. He broke all of his AVOs, as they're called in Australia, but restraining orders here in the United States, because he can't simply handle when somebody says no to him like a child. He has a tantrum. So this piece of shit stalks Charlotte, finds where she's living, and continues to abuse her. At first, it was just a couple of phone calls, call after call after call. Just kidding. Wasn't fucking normal at all. This guy called her hundreds of times and texted her, telling her that he was going to beat her up. And he would send these messages over and over again, some of which, unfortunately, I cannot show you, but this is the kind of tendencies we're talking about here. Of course, he would also layer these messages in with ones that were sweet and kind and saying that he would treat her right. But this all soon escalated very quickly. Viewer discretion is advised, but one night, he rocks up to Charlotte's house and does some of the most disgusting shit I've ever seen. I have to actually make a correction here. The same scenario happened to a T, except it was at his house because he wouldn't allow her to leave. My apologies. She went to his house because he was speaking very kindly to her. They were trying to figure things out. And then this happened. He got upset, and of course, after finding Char and getting into the house, proceeds to beat the living shit out of her. During this time, there was also an attempted R word and a very clear and pleaded guilty to sexual assault. It's not pleasant to go through some of these court documents, and it was pretty gruesome for Charlotte to recall, so we're going to try to leave it as topical as possible, but you get the idea. I'll show you what the doctor had to say about the incident, and I wanted to highlight couple specific statements that the doctor had made. The doctor said he threw up his elbow, hit her face. When she tried to leave, she stated that he grabbed her around her throat with one hand and held her against the wall. She attempted to leave again and reported that he grabbed her by the throat again and threw her into the bed and repeatedly hit her head into the bed as he was choking her. She stated that he held down one thigh and kneeled on the other thigh. This doctor did confirm that her injuries were consistent with what she had been reporting, and it was pretty gruesome. And I'm sorry to show you so many pictures here, but Charlotte was very fortunately willing to share a lot of this. It is on public television, it is on the news, so we're not necessarily going into anything too deep here, but a lot of this is personal information. So again, shout out to Charlotte for being honest, transparent about the whole situation, because she could not talk about it for almost an entire year as the lawsuit was going on, I'm assuming. And man, it's intense. There's a lot, honestly. It's up. So things started getting really serious. At this point, he's a repeated offender of several AVOs or restraining orders. He's beating Charlotte up on multiple occasions. He's stalking her, finding out where she lives. Doing heinous things. Henri's beat up several people at this point, and he's known to have abused at least 3 women. I've heard rumors of a third woman past 2022, but I don't want to get into specifics because she didn't want to come out. There's stuff on Reddit. It's hard to say for sure, but there is a long and clear timeline of some abuse here. And Charlotte had told me that this was actually a very normal occurrence for him to be hitting her. Sometimes it wouldn't be as bad, but he would still hit her regardless. And this actually showed up in a lot of her content. Before we really started digging into the videos of her and discussing her history and past, you can look at her face when she was being abused and see how radically different it is. Just her eyes and cheeks, they're so swollen. She doesn't look like the Charlotte that we've seen on this channel numerous times before. But when we show her now, it's clear that that inflammation from being hit so many times over and over again has completely dissipated, and there's no swelling around her eyes or cheekbones, and things are looking a lot better. And at this point, after all these incidences, he had been literally in and out of jail. He paid bail 5 different times. Somehow, I think clearly we know what's going on there because his father's not around. We know what's going on, even though people allegedly say they don't do things. This is all alleged. I don't know. whatever. But after doing these disgusting things to Charlotte, he went to jail again for breaking all of the previous restraining orders and his prior bail agreements. Finally. So Charlotte, like you, might be thinking, hey, we're good. We're safe now. Things are okay. But unfortunately, it's not the case. Even when he was in jail, she wouldn't be left alone. He commissioned some other children to absolutely assault her. So one day, again, while feeling as if she might be safe, just literally driving around, she randomly got rear-ended kind of aggressively. So what any other normal person would do is you'd stop your car and see what the hell is going on. Well, 3 men got out of the car that rear-ended her and then continued to go to her car, open her door, pull her out, and start beating her senselessly. I mean, beating her. 3 men. They then pulled her into the back of that car and continued to cut her several times over her face, her body, cut her with razors. I mean, it's truly disgusting shit. And I'm telling you, this gets really dark and it's a lot to go through. Sorting this stuff out is pretty tough, so forgive me, but here is kind of more of the evidence. What they did with those blades was they cut an H into her leg. They cut through her pants, as you can see here, and it carved an H into her leg, now of which is scarred into her leg, and she's having to deal with. Also cut her face and did a lot more awful shit to her, beating her up senselessly on the side of the road, in which she went to the hospital immediately after, getting medical care for everything that had happened. Of course, he denied having to do anything with this, even though his name was conveniently carved into her leg, and said that it was all just conspiracy? I don't know. We both know that this guy probably isn't trustworthy and should not be ever considered to be an honest individual. And one thing that really disturbed me that Charlotte had told me offline was that this was all happening when we were doing videos on her. We made that initial video talking about her transformation with enhancements. We then made a video of her talking about enhancements with her and then about OnlyFans models. During all of that, there was this going on in the background, and I found out, I guess, that, shatters my heart, but Henri didn't like those videos, and that really upset him and continued to escalate this behavior. And I literally am heartbroken about this, had no idea any of this was happening, and kudos to her for saying, fuck it, and just doing the video and standing straight up and being honest with us and talking to us as if nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, all of this was happening. I think it's fair to point out that all of our content has massive impacts that you don't even realize on people who watch it, on the people who the content is including. Sometimes those impacts are good, right? Like sometimes those impacts are really good. And I think this video might be one of those situations where the impact exposes this cunt for what he really is. So let's just fast forward again, okay? Now he's out on parole. The little cock glazing roach is just walking around on the streets doing his thing. Obviously, there's some stipulations though. He has to check in with a parole officer once weekly. He also has to give public access to his phone, computers, and any other devices that handle communication. He also has to do weekly drug tests for steroids, as one of his defenses in court was that he used steroids when he was 16 years old and onwards, so that gave him a personality disorder. He also admitted to using steroids all through the time that this stuff was happening. But interestingly enough, it's crazy to me, didn't get charged for any of that because steroids are woefully illegal in Australia, like terribly illegal. That's fine, I guess, to just admit in court and not get charged for. All right, cool. So again, let me clarify the charges that he has pled guilty to so far. He's just pled guilty to these ones to take the plea deal. He's got 1 case of sexual assault, 2 accounts of strangulation, 1 case of general assault, stalking several times, and 11 other cases of connected domestic violence. This is a very serious person we're talking about here, a very contorted and human being. And again, this isn't including the ex-girlfriend or any of the other shit that had gone on. Keep in mind that disgusting thought-ass sister who's clapping out her fucking pussy lips on the weekend was housing this man with children during all of this. You can see the dates and correlations here between these charges and when they happened with the dates that she's obviously housing her brother, having him play around with the kids and spend time with the family after he just got out of jail. Now, I think it's just I don't know, my opinions on this are pretty devastatingly strong. I had a pretty garbage childhood, and it had to do with a lot of physical and sexual abuse and lots of different things. I was removed from my home when I was young, 13 years old, by Child Protective Services, but a lot of my childhood was constructed around larger men abusing my mother in really fucking horrible ways. And so when I see stuff like this, I have absolutely no pity, like no pity at all for a man who would ever decide that putting his hands in that capacity on a woman as okay at all. If this had happened while I was in the military and he was serving with you and you found out like, hey, this guy had done some pretty fucking disgusting shit and we were over in the field, the case would be, even if we were in a whole squadron and no one else got shot at, suddenly, somehow, man, this guy got shot and got killed in the combat zone, man. That's kind of strange. No one else got hit, but everyone just bats an eye. It's like, whatever. That's how that works. Anyways, the goal behind this video and giving you all this information was that hopefully whenever you see this fucking cunt post content on the internet and, you know, just express his insecurities with steroid usage whilst being an overgrown man-child, you can call him out and explain all of the shit that he has done horrifically to women in his life, abused them, injured them, scarred them, done horrible things that they will have to consider, have to deal with the weight of that forever. A juiced up baby who doesn't know where he belongs, which at this point is in the shadow realm, if you know what I mean, just waltzing around the streets, making fucking content, being a happy camper again. Look, I'm not going to ask you to subscribe in this video. I'm just going to ask that you do me one single favor, which is if you aren't following Charlotte on Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, just go do so. Show her your support, right? Help her out in some capacity if you can. She does sell amazing coaching programs. She does have services that she provides. Might be worth checking those out just to get maybe some support over to her and doing the best we can for that woman. So I appreciate you watching this video, and I'm sorry if it got a little bit dark, but I think it's a necessary evil, and hopefully, you know, we can all kind of, I don't know, man, there's not much to say. It's disgusting. Don't ever touch a woman. Don't ever put your hands on a woman. There's no time, situation, place where that is okay unless your life is physically in danger, but that was not the case in any of these situations, nor I would say 95% of the time is it not the case. Some guys are like, oh, well, she put her hands on me first. You're 250 fucking pounds. Shut up. What are you talking about? It's irrelevant. Stop it. You're an idiot. You know what I mean? Yeah, whatever, dude. It's just beyond me. It's beyond me. I'm off now. I'm signing out. See you guys later, okay?